On the cold, dark night of February 27, 1933, Berlin's heart was set ablaze. The Reichstag, symbol of German democracy, erupted in flames, its glass dome a crown of fire against the night. Shattering glass and collapsing timber echoed through the city, drawing crowds who watched in horror. This was more than a building burning, it was the destruction of hope, a nightmare made real. Smoke and the stench of ruin filled the air, as sirens wailed and fire brigades fought a losing battle. The fire gutted the main chamber, reducing the seats of government to charred remains. Ornate woodwork and tapestries, witnesses to the Republic's birth, were reduced to ash. The silhouette of the Reichstag stood like a tombstone, each ember marking the end of an era. The flames mirrored the political fires raging across Germany, a nation on the brink. By dawn, the building was a hollow shell, its dome blackened against the gray sky. The smoke carried a chilling message. This was an omen, a violent punctuation in a time of deep uncertainty. The physical destruction was immense, but the political fallout would be far greater. The embers of the Reichstag fire were about to ignite a crisis that would consume German democracy. The night ended, but the true nightmare was just beginning. The world would soon feel the consequences of this inferno. The Reichstag was more than stone and glass. It was the beating heart of German democracy. Built to symbolize unity, its inscription, "To the German people," marked a shift from imperial power to national hope. Here, the Weimar Republic was born, and the promise of self-government took root. Yet, for many, the building's promise felt hollow. Democracy was blamed for humiliation, hardship, and chaos. Extremists saw the Reichstag as a symbol to be destroyed, not defended. When the flames consumed it, they devoured the most visible emblem of democracy. The fire seemed to confirm the Republic's weakness, shaking the faith of those who still believed. The image of the ruined parliament was a devastating blow to morale. It suggested that order had failed and chaos had triumphed. The destruction of the Reichstag was the destruction of a dream. In its ashes, enemies of democracy saw their chance. The void left behind would soon be filled by something far darker. By 1933, Germany was a nation in crisis. The scars of World War I, loss, humiliation, and economic ruin, never healed. The Great Depression plunged millions into poverty, fueling radicalization. Political violence became routine. Nazis and communists battled in the streets. Many Germans, desperate for order, lost faith in democracy's endless debates. Fear of poverty, violence, and revolution dominated daily life. This anxiety made authoritarian promises seductive. On January 30, 1933, Adolf Hitler was appointed chancellor, not by force, but by political deal. The Nazis were still a minority, but Hitler now held immense power. The Republic was weakened, a tinderbox of resentment awaiting a spark. That spark would come within weeks. The stage was set for democracy's collapse. The Reichstag fire was a tragedy, and an opportunity for the Nazis. Even as the flames burned, Hitler's team spun a narrative. This was a communist plot, a signal for uprising. Hermann Göring and Joseph Goebbels amplified the panic, warning of imminent civil war. The story was simple and terrifying, perfectly matching public fears. The Nazis claimed to have evidence of a wider plot, justifying a ruthless crackdown. A young Dutch communist, Marinus van der Lubbe, was arrested at the scene. His confession, whether true or not, became proof of the threat. The fire became the pretext to suspend civil liberties and eliminate opposition. The Nazis painted their rivals as traitors, justifying emergency measures. The spark had been struck. The tinderbox of German democracy was about to explode. The fire's narrative was a calculated move to seize power. Panic and propaganda would do the rest. The Nazis were ready to act. The Republic's fate hung in the balance. The day after the fire, the Nazis moved swiftly. They presented President Hindenburg with the Reichstag Fire Decree, claiming it was needed to stop a communist uprising. With a signature, civil liberties vanished. Freedom of speech, press, assembly, and privacy were suspended. The decree allowed arrest without warrants, censorship, and property seizures. It was a legal sledgehammer, dismantling the foundations of democracy overnight. The government now had unchecked power to restore order. The decree created a permanent state of emergency, martial law in all but name. Anyone could be arrested, newspapers shut down, dissent silenced. The legal framework protecting citizens was gone. This was the first decisive step toward dictatorship. Armed with new powers, the Nazis unleashed a wave of terror. Communists were rounded up by the thousands, their leaders jailed, their party shattered, but the crackdown didn't stop there. Social Democrats, union leaders, journalists, and critics were targeted. The SA stormtroopers acted as auxiliary police, spreading fear and violence. The March 1933 elections were held under intimidation. Opposition was silenced, the press muzzled. The Gestapo, the secret police, was established, operating outside the law, relying on informers. Suspicion and mistrust spread, destroying the fabric of society. The state became an all-seeing, all-powerful force. Fear of denunciation kept people silent. The machinery of repression was now in place. Democracy's defenders were powerless. Despite terror and intimidation, the Nazis fell short of an absolute majority in the March 1933 election. They relied on coalition partners to control the Reichstag. The communist deputies were expelled. The Social Democrats stood as the last opposition. The new Reichstag convened under armed guard. Intimidation everywhere. Otto Wels, leader of the Social Democrats, delivered a courageous speech defending liberty and justice. It was the last free speech in the German parliament for 12 years. The parliament met under duress. Democracy's final act was playing out. The forces of totalitarianism were overwhelming. The fate of German democracy was sealed. The last voices of dissent were silenced. The Republic's end was imminent. On March 23, 1933, Hitler presented the Enabling Act to the Reichstag. This law would transfer all legislative power to Hitler and his cabinet for 4 years. It was a request for Parliament to vote itself out of existence. With communists banned and many Social Democrats absent, the Nazis needed the Center Party's support. Hitler promised moderation, but stormtroopers' presence made the threat clear. The Center Party, hoping to protect itself, voted in favor. Only the Social Democrats opposed. The act passed. Democracy committed suicide under duress. Hitler could now rule by decree, unchecked and absolute. The Weimar Republic was dead. Dictatorship was law. The fire had led, in weeks, to the end of German freedom. The world watched as democracy vanished. With the Enabling Act, the Nazification of Germany began. Federal states lost autonomy. All power was centralized under Hitler. Trade unions were crushed, replaced by the Nazi-controlled German Labor Front. All other parties were outlawed. Germany became a one-party state. The press, arts, and education fell under Nazi control. Dissenting books were burned. Universities were purged. Youth indoctrinated. The Gestapo's reach expanded, and concentration camps became permanent. Fear of denunciation ensured obedience. Individuality was suppressed. Conformity was demanded. The apparatus of terror held society in its grip. The vibrant Weimar Republic was gone, replaced by totalitarian rule. The path from fire to tyranny was shockingly short. The Reichstag fire is a timeless warning. It shows how quickly democracy can fall, not by invasion but by fear and manipulation. The fire didn't destroy the republic. The reaction did. Panic, emergency powers, and the surrender of freedoms brought democracy down. The blueprint: crisis, fear, suspension of rights, silencing opposition, and seizure of power. Laws and constitutions are only as strong as those who defend them. Democracy is fragile, requiring vigilance and courage, especially in crisis. When liberty is traded for order, both are lost. The smoke of 1933 has cleared, but its warning remains. The price of security must never be our freedom.